Hi, I'm Nicole, writer, producer, and editor here at Critical Crop Top, and this is Tutorial Tuesday. On today's episode, we are going to import our footage into Premiere Pro. Okay, in our last tutorial, we talked about the interface inside of Premiere Pro, and today we're actually going to import some footage. Importing footage into editing software, we usually refer to it as ingesting. So ingesting is just the process of importing footage. It can also mean importing audio files. I think the reason that we call it ingest is because in a way, the software kind of like sometimes has to digest the video by converting it into other things. But in this case, we're just going to do a very simple import. We're just going to use DSLR camera files. So if you guys are shooting stuff on a DSLR, the process should be pretty simple, and let's get right to it. Okay, so we are ready to import some footage and to get editing. So let's get started with that. So in order to import our footage, first of all, I recommend creating some bins. Now remember, bins are just folders where we store the assets for our project. So let's go ahead and create some bins so that once we bring in our footage, we have a place to put them. I can go down here and click on this folder to create a bin. I can right click, and that's just using the right side of my mouse. I can click on the right side of my mouse and I will get a menu, drop-down menu here. If for some reason the right click on your mouse isn't working, you can also hold down the control button on the keyboard and click, and that will also pull up the menu. So you'll see here I can go new bin, or I can just do the key command to create new bin. So I'm going to create a folder and call it video footage. All right, then I'm sort of going to click outside of this. If I create another bin right now, it's going to create a bin inside of that bin, which can be useful, but not what I want to do right now. So I'm just going to click, whoop, and new bin. I'm going to call this production audio. Now, if you're recording your audio directly into camera, you probably won't need a separate bin for your audio. You might need a bin for some music or something later. This is only if you were recording a web series or a short film or even a feature, and you were recording the audio on a separate device from the camera, which we'll cover what to do with that in a later tutorial. All right, so now that I've got those covered, there's a couple ways that I could go about importing my footage. I could go over here to the media browser and I could navigate to the folder. So actually, let me just give myself a little bit more room here. And you'll see that as I hover near the edge of a panel, I get this little, my mouse changes a little bit to these like parallel lines, and that allows me to resize the panels. And we'll just pull that down a little bit. So if I go in here to Tutorial Tuesdays and we go to our VR footage, you'll see that I can actually just go all the way in here. And at this point, I can actually, you'll see that as I move my mouse over the thumbnails for the footage, it'll kind of, we call this scrubbing through the audio. It'll sort of quickly show me, it'll quickly sort of play through. Sorry, we call that scrubbing audio or video. So I could just click on these and select all of them. Command A is a good key command if you want to select all things. So I could go in here and then I could just import from here, or go back to our project panel. I can actually just go to my video footage bin and I can either use the key command to import, or I can right click and you'll see I can also do import. And in this situation, I would use this pop-up window here to, let's see, where's my drive? There it is. And go over here and find all of my footage. So I'm actually going to click on one of these, hold down the Shift key and click on the bottom, and I'm actually just going to import all of these folders, and it's actually going to bring them in with their each individual folders. And the reason they're labeled roll 2, 3, and 4 is that just means like which card were we on at the time. Card 2 of the day, card 3, card 4. Okay, now if you see a pop-up window like this, don't freak out. It just means that there's usually a bunch of other stuff that comes with those camera files that Premiere just doesn't need, and so it's not going to import it. So you can see all these files with it says .thm. Premiere Pro does not need that, so it is not going to import it. And there's some other stuff in there too. So as long as you can go over to your bin and open up these clips and play them without any problem, I would not worry about that error message at all.
Rolling. Sound speeds.
3B, take 1.
Great. So it looks like my video footage has imported correctly. I can play it up here in the source monitor with no problems. So great. All right, so let's go for our production audio. So again, I'm just going to right-click, import, and then I'm going to navigate to my audio. So let's see, shoot, audio. Now, of course, this is what your audio is going to look like when it comes from. This is what it looks like when it comes from the H6 Zoom, or even if you have the H4n, it will look like this. They're all kind of in separate folders. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this entire folder and bring that in. And I got a couple of error message here, just some stuff that Premiere Pro doesn't need, and it's not going to import it. All right, so if I go over here and start opening up these folders, double click, and I've got, you'll see that I've got all these controls that I can play my footage. So let's go down to this one. Great. And since this is a audio clip and it doesn't have any video attached to it, I'm just going to see, this is what we call the waveform, right? So this is all the audio, and we're seeing the audio waveforms. So of course I can use these buttons here, or something you might want to get in the habit of is using spacebar. Spacebar will play.
Still too much.
And spacebar will stop. So spacebar is a great way to play your footage. It works for all this stuff. So whether I'm using audio or video, let's just grab something different. Let's see here. There we go.
When you're set, John?
Yes.
Set.
And great. So spacebar will play and stop. And then another way to play your footage, if you learn nothing else from these tutorials, JKL is like the thing to know. Okay, so J will, if I hit it once, it'll reverse, right? K will stop, and L
Okay, Virginia.
will play. Okay, so J goes backwards, K stops, and L will go forwards. Now, if I hit J more than once, it will actually rewind more quickly. So, right, and then K will stop. And then if I hit L more than once, the more times that I hit it, the faster it will fast forward.
And when you're set, John?
And if I hit it enough times, I won't even hear the audio. It'll just go quickly. Okay, so that is how to import your footage. A little bit about playing and stopping, rewinding your footage. Another way that I can kind of step through my footage is if I use the left and right arrows. That will go one frame at a time. And of course, when we're in an editing program, one frame is the smallest increment of time we can have. So if you look over here at my time code, which is on the bottom left here, it is moving one frame at a time.
And that's it. In a future video, I will show you guys how to do a little bit more of a complicated ingest, which would be ingesting using proxies. That's when you have footage that is like large footage, like 4K or 8K or something, and you want to cut it at a lower resolution. I'm going to cover that in a different video. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you never miss another Tutorial Tuesday. And while you're here, maybe check out one of our short films or web series or podcasts or sketches that we produced.
If you have a question about this tutorial, or if you have a topic that you would like me to cover on a future video, then put it in the comments. Now go out there and make something. And we'll see you on the next Tutorial Tuesday.